Big Navajo. BarryBlood1. Down to you.
Some of you may remember that last year when I came on stage, I had 2 bags and
Just pull. It doesn't have to twist, just pull it up.
2 bags and 4 hats. Tonight I've only got 1 bag and 1 hat. I'm going to do a monologue for you tonight that I borrowed from the comedian Andy Griffith. It's called, what is it called? What it was football. Now, some of you remember that. It was recorded on a 45 RPM record, which some of you remember, back in 1953. And I was surprised when I was talking to people about this that there's an awful lot of people have never heard it before. You'll get your chance tonight. If you have heard it before, this will be a little bit of nostalgia. If you haven't heard it, but you know a little bit about football, it should be entertaining. If you've never heard it and you know nothing about football, you'll probably be sitting there saying, what the hell is he talking about? Some of you, I know, I've heard you giggling about my wardrobe tonight. Chris picked this out for me. I know it doesn't look very well good, but when I put the hat on, I think that brings it all together. So I'll retire now for about 10 seconds. You can talk among yourselves, and I will come back as the character. This character doesn't have a name, but I have named him. His name is Eli Muckenfudge. And I think it will go Eli. Back last October, I believe it was, we was going to hold this tent service opposite this little college town, and we got there about supper time on Saturday, and different ones of us thought that we ought to get us a mouthful to eat before we set up the tent. We did, and so when I got off the truck there, I seen this little bitty bunch of people walking through this little tiny wood patch there, and I thought, well, I'll just follow them and maybe we'll find something to eat. And sure enough, we'd gone a little ways there, and I seen this sign that says, "Get something to eat here." So I went up and I got me 2 hot dogs and a big orange drink, and before I could take a single bite of that food, this whole raft of people come up around me and got me up where I couldn't eat nothing up like, and I dropped my big orange drink. I did. And pretty soon this crowd of people, they commenced to moving, and there wasn't so much that I could do but just to move with them. And we commenced to going through all kinds of doors and gates and things, and I looked up over one of them and said, "North Gate." And we kept going through there for a ways, and we come on this young boy, and he said to me, he says, "Ticket, please." I said, "Son, I don't have a ticket. I don't even know where I'm going." And he hollers on up to me, he says, "Well, you don't have a ticket, you gotta come back out here." And I said, "I'll do it, I'll turn around the first chance I get." We kept on going through there, pretty soon I guess everybody got to where they was going because they parted and I could see pretty good. And what I seen was these two big groups of people sitting on these two banks and looking at one another across this real pretty little green cow pasture. And somebody had took and drawn white lines all over that cow pasture and drove some posts in it. I looked down there and I seen 4 or 5 convicts running around down there. And then there was a bunch of girls down there, pretty little girls. They were wearing these real short skirts on, and they was dancing and jumping up and down. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to sit down here and see what's going to happen. And so I did, and about the time I got to sit down there, there's about 30 or 40 men come running out of one end of what looked like a great big outhouse down there. And all the people where I was sitting, they got up and started hollering and yelling. And about that time, there's 30 or 40 men coming out of the other end of this big outhouse. And all them people over on that other side, they got up and screamed and hollered. And I turned to this fellow I was sitting by and I said, buddy, he says, what are they screaming about? And he whoops me on the back and says, buddy, have a drink. Well, I thought, well, maybe I will have another big orange drink. And so I went and I got it. And I come back up there and I seen that them two bunches of men had kind of got down there real close together and they voted. And each of them voted one man, and them two men come out of the middle of that cow pasture and they shook hands like they hadn't seen one another in a long time. And then one of them convicts come out there where he was standing, and he took out a quarter and they began to odd man right there in the middle of that cow pasture. And pretty soon I seen what it was they was an odd man for. It was that both bunches of those people wanted that funny-looking little pumpkin to play with. And I know they couldn't have ate it because they kicked it all night and it never did. But when one of them groups of people men would get that pumpkin, it would make the other group so mad. Folks, I seen that night the awfulest fight I have ever seen in my life. They would run at one another and throw one another down and stomp on one another and grind their feet into one another. And I don't know what all. As soon as one of them get hurt, they would tote him off and run another one off. And that went on for as long as I sat there. But pretty soon that young boy come by again. He says, friend, you got to leave because you don't have a ticket. And I said, well, all right. And so I got up and left. And I still, to this day, don't know what they was doing down there. But I have studied on it. And I think it was some kind of a contest to see which bunch of them men could take that funny little pumpkin and run from one end of that cow pasture to the other without either getting knocked down or stepping in something. Thank you.